I was on my way home from work, like every day. Nothing out of the ordinary until I reached my apartment building. The first sign was glued to the main entrance. "You've never been here before." "Weird," I mumbled to myself as I opened the door and made my way to the elevator. Inside, another note was glued next to the buttons. "All floors will feel right. None of them are." I wondered if this was some kind of art project of one of the other people who lived in the building, or a prank some teens were playing. I pressed the button to the 7th floor, and the elevator started moving with a soft hum. The door opened, and right as I stepped outside, I saw another note, stuck to the floor right in front of my shoes. "It's not too late. Yet." I walked past it with a queasy feeling settling in my stomach. The building I live in has 20 floors in total, and I wondered if there was a note on each floor, or whether mine was chosen for a particular reason. But I was tired from work, hungry because I only had a light lunch, and I was in no mood to deal with any of it. I tried to ignore it until I stepped inside my apartment where another note was waiting for me. A small piece of paper in the same handwriting as all the others that I crossed on my way. "This is not your home." It was glued to my wall right across from the door. I stood in the middle of the room, my body suddenly frozen and my mind going blank. Then, finally, fear came over me. Somebody had been inside my apartment. Or maybe they were still inside. I live in a one-bedroom apartment, so luckily there weren't many hiding spots. Collecting all my courage, I went to the bathroom and checked my closet and the space under my bed. All the places where a person could be hiding, but it appeared I was alone, so locked my door and shut the bolt from the inside. When I finally felt safe enough, my thoughts started racing and a strange feeling settled inside of me. The feeling that these notes weren't a threat, but a warning. I decided to knock on my neighbor's door to ask whether they had found a similar note in their home, but before unlocking the door, I checked through my spy to see if there was anyone outside. I couldn't shake off the feeling that somebody could be waiting for me. At first, the part of the hallway that I could see was empty, but slowly, a shadow started appearing in my vision. The first thing I saw was a foot stepping closer to the front of my door. Slowly, the rest of the body followed. It belonged to a man dressed in an awkwardly fitting gray suit with wrinkles. His dark hair was parted in the middle. I tried to remember if I'd seen him before, but I couldn't say for sure. A lot of people lived in this building, but I hadn't met many. At first, I thought he was just passing through, and I tried to control my breathing, fearing that he could hear me through the door. But then he turned towards me as if he could see me through the other side. His gaze was fixed on mine, even though that was impossible. And then he slowly waved. Instinctively, I stumbled back. There was a loud knock, but I didn't move. I held my breath, even when I started feeling dizzy. I stood there for a few moments until I finally decided to check if he was still there. I imagined his face glued to the spy as I moved closer, but when I looked out again, he was gone. I couldn't make sense of the strange situation, but I knew that I needed to call for help. There had been an intruder in my home after all, but when I went through my pockets and my bag, I realized that I didn't have my phone, and I never bothered to get a landline. It was too coincidental that I would lose my phone right on such a strange day. Somebody must have stolen it from me. I knew I had to get out and talk to someone, but I was too afraid that I would stumble into the strange man in the hallway. Before I could think of another plan, the sound of rapid knocking came from my door. This time it wasn't as loud. There was a different undertone to it. Fear. Carefully, I walked up to the spy again and saw the face of a young woman that lived on my floor. We'd met a few times in the hallway or the elevator. The knocking became slightly louder and I heard a whisper. "Please, let me in." Reluctantly, I opened my door. She slightly pushed me to the side as she made her way in, quickly shutting the door behind her. Her eyes were opened wide, her breathing fast. "What is going on?" she cried out. Then her gaze went to the note on my wall. "Did you get one too?" I asked. "I've been hiding in my apartment all day. Something scary is happening," she responded. "I didn't know what to do, but then I finally heard your door. You're the first one I saw coming home. She looked away from the note and met my gaze. Then I saw that man outside. I waited till he was really gone, and then I came over. Somebody was clearly messing with us, and seeing the fear in her eyes made me realize that this situation was real, and that we needed to get away as soon as possible. I don't know what the hell is going on, but we should probably try to get outside. We can take some knives. We can't, she interrupted me. There is no way out. What do you mean there's no way out? Once you're inside, you're stuck. What? She sighed. Do you know who I am? I'd met her a few times before, in the hallway or in the elevator where we'd chat a little. I don't remember your name, to be honest, but let me make this quick. You don't know me. We've never met before, and we don't live here. I laughed, but before I could say anything, she continued. Think about it. Really think. Try to remember. Is this your home? I looked around the sparsely furnished room. I looked for photos or mail, but there was nothing. Then I looked at her again. She wasn't much younger than me, early 20s maybe. Her brown hair was long and curly, going over her shoulders. I tried to think of the few times we met, and then I realized that something was off about the memories. Normally, when you remember moments, you see yourself in a third perspective, but everything I remembered was in first, like moments happening in real time. I swallowed. What is happening? Did I lose my mind? I finally asked, not really answering her questions. She shrugged. I tried to remember my family, friends, and my childhood, but there was nothing. My mind was blank. What's your name? She asked. Dan, I think. I'm Cassie. Cassie, why did you come here? Why would you trust me if you don't know me? She shrugged again. I couldn't hide forever. Shouldn't I be trusting you? I shook my head. No, I wasn't really sure what to say. I'm not dangerous. She smiled. I'm going out, I decided. Like you said, we can't hide forever. You look weak. I think you should eat something, collect your strength, and then we will form a plan. She was right, but I was suddenly feeling too sick to think clearly. I grabbed a big kitchen knife and made my way to the hallway. There was no other person around, so I quickly walked to the elevator. On my way, I noticed that the note I had seen earlier was gone. I pressed the button of the elevator, but nothing happened. After a moment, I decided to check out the stairs, but the door was locked. Suddenly, there was a noise. The elevator door opened, and I made my way toward it, passing Cassie, who still stood in my doorway. I stopped when I noticed that somebody was inside the elevator. The man in the suit. Our eyes met briefly, and then he noticed the knife in my hand. He shook his head but didn't say anything. Then he looked behind me, straight at Cassie. "Come back quick!" she shouted. The man took a step forward, but before he got too close, I ran back to my apartment. Cassie shut the door and locked it. I was panting. "I told you there's no way out," she whispered, turning towards my sofa. Well, not really mine, and sat down. "We can't stay here forever. We'll starve, or he'll find a way in. He could break the door. We should try to make a sign, hold it out the window. Maybe somebody will see." Cassie frowned. The man started banging on the door from the outside again, louder and louder. "Get out of there," I heard the muffled voice of the man. "It's not too late." His voice broke off. My eyes moved from her to the door. I wanted to scream, to jump out the window, but it was too high and I wouldn't make it. Cassie caught my eye. "You could jump. Try it." A wide grin was spreading over her face. "What? You told me you weren't dangerous, but you didn't even bother to ask if I was." She crossed her legs on the sofa. All the fear I had noticed on her face earlier was gone. She looked like a happy child, and I realized I had made a big mistake. She told me that I didn't really know her. The reason I trusted her in the first place was because I thought she was my neighbor, and then because I thought she was in danger, just like me. The banging on the door was back. "Did you leave all those notes?" I asked. She shook her head. "Why would I warn you? Who is that man? Are you helping him?" She chuckled. I inspected her face again. Something about it was off. It was too perfect. I grabbed the knife that I was still holding, tight in my hand. Then there was a loud thud. The door had broken. I felt an arm grabbing me and pulling me into the hallway. Before I could defend myself, I was being pulled into the elevator. I fell to the floor and saw Cassie in the hallway, smiling at me, but she didn't move closer, didn't try to stop him. "Don't be gone too long," she said before the door closed. I remembered that I was still holding the knife and used all my strength to push it into the leg of the man. His eyes opened wide as he crumbled to the ground next to me. I pulled out the knife, ready to hit again when he whispered, "Please don't. I'm trying to help you." My entire body was shaking with rage, but when I saw the pained look on him and the blood spilling on the floor, I stopped for a moment. "She lured me in, just like you. Just like the others that are hiding," he croaked. "Once she makes you eat something, you can't leave anymore, but she can't make you stay with force." I was lost for words. The door opened as we reached the first floor. "Run," he told me. "Try not to think of this place again." I looked at his bleeding leg and felt horrible. He was trying to help me this entire time. When he saw that I was hesitating, he added, "My leg will be fine. We heal faster here." "What's your name?" I asked. "Mateo. Gerard. It's the only thing I remember." "Mateo, I can't just leave you. You have to as long as you still can. And be careful. She will find a way to get you back." The first moments after leaving the building were a blur, but as I got further away, my real memories came back. Of my real home and my past. The memories of Cassie and my imagined home stayed as well. However, when I tried to find the building again later, I couldn't. I researched online for hours until I finally found him. Mateo Gerard had disappeared 5 years ago on his way to a job interview. He was only 20 then. As I looked further into it, I found that he had disappeared once before after he went to a festival. He was gone for a week when he suddenly came back to his parents out of nowhere. I can only imagine what happened then. They probably thought he'd taken too many drugs or that he was going through a psychotic episode. So a year later, Cassie found him again. And this time he couldn't save himself. He told me not to think about it, but I can't stop it. I wonder why she let me go so easily. She was able to control my mind and my memories. There was no way she couldn't stop me. But then I think of the smirk on her face when she told me to just jump. My fear was all a game to her. She let me leave because she knows she can get me back and play another round.